I am tired of sitting back and pretending like I deserve the hand I was dealt. I used to believe in fairness, in doing the right thing and the right thing happening back, but life in Portland, Oregon taught me that is not always how it works. When I first moved to this city, I truly thought I had it all figured out. I had a stable job at a nonprofit helping local families in need. I lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment that I paid for myself. I was finally feeling like I was in control of my own life. Everything was exactly where it needed to be, or so I thought. But all of that changed when I decided to take on something new, something that should have made me stronger, not weaker, not broken. I met Jordan. When I was 32, he was one of those Portland guys. Flannel shirts and an ego the size of Mount Tabor. He worked in real estate. The kind that liked to flex on social media about his latest deals and nice dinners. Out we met at a charity event hosted by a local community group. Nothing too fancy, just a silent auction with overpriced wine and bad hors d'oeuvres. He was charming at first, had a way of making people feel like he really cared about them, when in reality he only asked about their problems, so he could use them to his advantage. Turns out I was no exception. I guess I should have known better the first time he showed off about how he handled a former tenant who tried to go against him. I remember hearing him laugh as he told the story how the tenant thought she could sue Jordan for not fixing a broken heater, but Jordan made sure she never had the chance. The way he said it, so proud, like it was a good thing. I brushed it off at the time, thinking it was just a story. After all, I was looking for a roommate. My rent had gone up again, and I needed someone to share the load. Jordan was looking for an opportunity, and I was just the kind of person he liked to manipulate. Our friendship was real at first. I thought he was going to be the kind of person who would help me grow, smart and witty and full of life. At least from the outside, that's what it looked like. But once we started living together, the cracks in his facade showed. He started making unilateral decisions about things like groceries, electricity usage. He claimed I used too much power and started leaving passive-aggressive notes on the light switches. He was always playing God with control, and the messier it got, the more he treated it like a game he was winning. Then he did something that changed everything for me. He opened up an app on his phone one day, showed me a few tabs, and explained how he could monitor the apartment's electrical usage in real time. I laughed and asked him why he needed that. His eyes went cold. He said it was not about needing it, it was about having power over me. I gulped, but I played it off like I thought he was joking. 2 weeks later, he told me our apartment building was scheduled for inspection. He said he was going to report me for illegal electrical use. I did the math in my head. We shared the same meters. Our apartment was not metered separately. He had absolutely no proof to back this claim, and by his own admission, it was just a way to scare me and shove his control down my throat. I confronted him. He said he was trying to make me feel what it was like for people who get taken advantage of. What kind of twisted logic is that? I told him I'd never play into whatever kind of power fantasy, yet he just smiled and walked away. That was the start of it, the start of me becoming an enemy in his mind, the start of something really awful that I never meant to ignite. He started tightening the noose. He told me my portion of the rent wasn't enough. He created spreadsheets calculating every single penny I used and charged me for it, including my own birthday's candle and the heat used in the shower if I left a light on. He wrote me an invoice. He wanted to live perfectly balanced, but push it only onto me. It was exhausting. But I did my best to keep up. Then he upped the ante. He changed the locks, not to keep people out, no, to frame me. He blamed me for not paying part of the heating bill, even though he was the one who controlled the payments, and I had receipts proving I paid on time. He called the landlord and said I refused to leave the apartment, that I was squatting in his home. Bullshit. That same day, 2 eviction notices were sent to me, one for illegal occupancy and one for electrical overreach, all from Jordan's story. The landlord called me in a panic. She barely spoke to me in months, but suddenly she wanted me out, told me to pack my things and find a new place before the week ended. I said no. I asked to see the lease. My name is on it, every bit of it. She mumbled something and gulped. I knew he was poisoning her against me. I had to make a choice. Do I take the eviction lying down and give Jordan another moment of control, or do I find a way to fight this, to show him exactly how much he underestimated me? I wasn't just some tick on the side of his life. I was a Lara Whitmore. I read for fun. I work for purpose. And I do not roll over easily, so I decided to fight him. I started collecting records, emails between him and the landlord, snapshots of my payments. I even recorded him openly admitting he wanted to scare me. I had just enough to file a complaint with local housing, so I did. I filled out every form and turned them in with a copy of my evidence. I asked for protection. For the truth to matter, they took it seriously, but not seriously enough. They came out for an inspection. They didn't pay attention to Jordan's manipulation. They chalked it up to a roommate dispute. They declined to intervene. Just like that, my whole world tilted. I confided in a coworker at the nonprofit. She asked me what gives. She was the only one who noticed how quiet I'd become. I told her everything. She lit up like I'd handed her a new cause. She introduced me to this quiet activist group who specialized in fighting predatory roommates and landlords. She called them the Shadow Landers. They were sneaky and smart. They knew how to play the game better than anyone. They told me Jordan had set a trap and traps needed counters. I said I was listening. They explained that his attack was not legal, but it was smart because I had no paper trail to fight his word. So I needed to create one, I was told, to bait him into speaking openly on the abuse, to pretend like I relented, to cry and show pain, to beg for forgiveness, and they would help me document the fallout. I agreed to try it. I wanted to prove that I wasn't crazy. I cried in front of Jordan that night, said I was sorry, said I just wanted to make it work. Said I was willing to sign anything to fix things inside. I was boiling, but I smiled, I pleaded. And I made him believe I was breaking. He boasted about his control the next day at breakfast, telling me how he made me understand that living with someone is not about friendship but dominance. I played along, letting him swell with pride, eventually pushing him even further. I asked him if he wanted to sell the place and kick me out altogether. That's when I got him to start talking trash about the landlord. He told me how he'd already convinced her to sell the building, how he slithered into her life and filled her ears with lies, how he gave her visions of higher profits. He even showed me a past message from the landlord, promising that once I was gone, the place would be his. I turned on my recorder and sent him the message that I had no way to fight him and that I'd be moving out within minutes. He texted me a new list of demands: cleaning fee for using my shower, damage fee for stepping on his side of the living room, depreciation fee for me living in the building. It was as ridiculous as it was intentional. He thought he had won, but he didn't realize I had something he could never defeat. I had prepared my own path forward with help from the group. I didn't just make a paper trail. Digital minefield. I filed a new complaint with housing, this time on Jordan directly. This time I came ready. I submitted the messages where he admitted fault. I provided the timeline of the stolen locks. I submitted the recording of him claiming the building was his. They said I had been through enough. They believed me. But Jordan wasn't done. He retaliated with no boundaries. He skipped rent the following month and then told the landlord that the work never got done, claimed I broke his shower, sabotaged the place. While he was at work, he turned it around and made me seem untrustworthy. The landlord had no idea who to believe. The notice came out again. Said that the contract might need to be canceled if we couldn't find a resolution. That's when I reached out to the Shadow Landers again. This time, their plan suited me even better. They showed me how to track his foot traffic, not just through photos or accounts, but through something more subtle. He always went walking at night. He claimed it was for mindfulness or whatever, but what was actually true was he met someone else when he thought he was clear, a buyer, a corporate real estate developer, sniffing out buildings with low multi-unit potential. They both thought the neighborhood was just good enough for flipping. They met near the old rugby field. He would walk the same path every Thursday night after work. So the Shadow Landers helped me install discrete recording tech on his walk route. We embedded logs with his footfall info, and then we matched the conversations on his phone. We watched him sell my home from beneath me, and the looks on his face when he thought I wasn't paying attention made my stomach churn. Once I had more than enough leverage, I escalated the fight. I filed a wrongful eviction case with the city. I filed a report with the district attorney's office. I finally took a screenshot long enough to expose his plan all the way and sent it all to the landlord. She was furious. She had a serious meeting with me. The next day she said she had no idea he was trying to strongarm her property. Said it looked like I was the one who wanted me to stay together. We called him and he said he wasn't doing anything wrong. He said he was just trying to create a profitable environment. The documents proved otherwise, messages proving his manipulation records, proving he altered the rent sheet without consulting me, a shocking amount of prepaid rent that conveniently disappeared. The landlord handed him two choices: leave immediately or sue me to get out. He chose to leave, cursing me his last day, swearing that I hadn't ruined him, that I hadn't destroyed his credibility. But it was clear that I had. He walked away, boots echoing like someone who left everything behind. The victory felt real until it was the next month. Rent came due, and my name was on the contract, and the landlord had gone silent. She had left town without notice, without even calling me to say she was leaving. Jordan had already spun a narrative in his final moments of power that she should never trust me again, and she did it. She vanished. I began receiving notices again, this time from the city. Affidavits from the past 3 months were sent back, with some new legal weights. Inspections were mandated. Electrical discrepancies were highlighted. Jordan's revenge was in my power lines. The city pushed a fine against me, claiming I had manipulated the building's infrastructure to defraud the landlord and his roommates. They said my own footage had given him enough leverage to tie me into regulation problems. I couldn't believe the turn. I fought fair, but he played dirty. And now it looked like I was the one who stood behind the damage. The sad thing is I had no clue how to fight this anymore. That's when I decided on revenge, not just for me, but for the next 30 people who walked through my path, for anyone who had ever been tricked into playing by someone else's rules. I hit pause on my nonprofit work for 2 weeks. No one suspected anything, but I disappeared just like she had, only this time I used the same emotional control Jordan once wielded over me. I called county environmental agencies, claimed he had installed illegal meter switching technology, used the property's own electricity logs, found power fluctuations that should have been stable, traced the trails back, and used the evidence to press criminal charges. And then I hit him with something even dirtier. I didn't just accuse him of manipulation, I showed the world who he really was. I kept a blog that month I called The Whitmore Chronicles, where I laid out his behavior, his lies, his twisted math, his obsession with control, and his illegal meetings with the developers. I didn't take hits online, I took his truth and posted it unfiltered for Portland locals to see. People responded, others came forward. One neighbor revealed that Jordan once demanded rent from her for letting a friend park on his curb. Another story came from a woman who tried to run the numbers and found he lived off stolen equity. I compiled 3 months of documentation and posted it openly online. The DA started looking into multiple cases, not just mine. The entire landlord scene started reacting. Suddenly, Jordan wasn't charming anymore. He became a cautionary tale. But that wasn't enough for me. I called him for a final conversation. We met at the rugby field that spawned so many of his secret deals. He looked like someone who had just woken from a long nightmare. He told me I was immature, that I let emotion cloud logic. I smiled and gave him one last twist. I told him that I had submitted his name to the State Credit Bureau, that every lie he spread, every rogue lease, every unpaid water bill, every fake damage fee would be reviewed and folded into his legal record, that I, with the help of the nonprofit I worked for, ensured that the record of landlord abuse followed him wherever he went. Jordan's face lost color. He tried to accuse me of something illegal. I stopped him with a single document. My record showed that I had followed every single legal step possible, that I never broke any laws, that my retaliation was cleaner, more intentional, more rooted in principle. He didn't have a response. He didn't have to. The system reacted soon enough. He lost his real estate job. Turns out using the same tricks on peers doesn't work for long. He ended up changing names on social media, trying to disappear. But the internet isn't as easy as that. Portland moved away from him like waves leaving a shoreline. Every place he tried to rent got hit by something. A fake claim of infestation, came back a warning from the local tenants alliance titled Jordan of Marengo Avenue, popped up on their network. He even noticed that even when he booked a hotel in downtown Portland, someone would make a report anonymously saying a suspicious person was staying illegally in the area. At first, he brushed it off as coincidence. Then he got a warning from a friend working at the hotel that my name came up in several real estate retaliation files based on unnamed tips that owners were checking his background. Simply his personality printed on private forums, claiming he was toxic, unmanageable, not trustworthy. He finally had the message clear. He wasn't the manipulator anymore, he was the manipulated. And what did he do? He ran to his parents' house in Salem. I got a moment of closure when a neighbor sent me a photo of him moving out, doped up moving truck, and 2 cardboard boxes. That's all he had left. Some part of me felt like that should have been the end, like watching him fall into his own designs should have been satisfying. But I craved more. I wanted him to understand what it was like to be small, to be helpless, to be betrayed. The group had one more idea. They told me about a kind of soft warfare these days, the kind that creates ghosts within your own life. I asked them to explain. They spoke of digital surveillance, of data loops, of trails that appear even when you don't lay them. So I created 2 identities online, 2 fake developers looking at rental properties. I reached out to him under different emails and numbers, sent him messages praising his manipulation skills, and said we needed people like him in the future housing market. He took the bait. I set up fake appointments. I used old location tags from developers we knew had been banned from Portland, then encouraged him to share sensitive documents publicly showing buildings no one ever knew he was negotiating over. It was beautiful. He thought he was getting back into the market, but he was just flashing red flags on the 3rd fake appointment. I connected him with a watchdog firm I had learned about during this process, a firm that specialized in hiring former harms to collate evidence against abusers. Jordan presented them with all of the documents they needed, and they filed a full assessment against him for illegal housing profit. He was denied any future real estate licenses, denied the ability to even participate in property offers. I watched him one day in front of our old building. He hadn't returned since moving out, but he came back on a cold Wednesday. He tried to talk to the new manager, who had no idea who he was. When Jordan introduced himself, the manager pulled up his record and refused to even answer his questions. But it didn't stop there. I went to the city council, pulled together all the data. I wasn't fighting city fines, but actually sharing a pattern. I discovered individuals like Jordan were slipping under the radar, manipulating leases through eviction threats, heating fees, and any other legal nuance they could exploit. I sparked a small reform movement, pushing a new line of tenant protections into Portland's legal architecture. That money from his sickening deposits I helped return to people. Just like me, I no longer work at the nonprofit. I do independent consulting now. I provide people facing what I did with a roadmap out. I train them to build evidence, to fight properly, to not let someone like him crawl into their lives and spin control like it was roadwork. A year later, when I thought the dust had settled, I received a message from the landlord. She had moved back to Oregon, said she had an offer she wanted to make. She now runs a small co-op that helps people fight digital bias and legal manipulation. She offered me a place within her council of former renters. We train people to navigate modern housing obstructions. I'm no longer just a user of the system, I am now helping to rewrite it. And do you know what the ultimate joy is? I get to see Jordan struggle. I see him listed in our database with a long list of red flags. Every signature he left, every landlord he wronged is right there. And in the deep end of a chamber we designed together. We added one last $1 million feature. He cannot pass a digital tenant score check without the system automatically flagging someone who taught him how to lose. And I get to smile when I flip through my old messages and see what he once claimed he'd do to me, how I was supposed to fold, how I was just a pawn to his bigger game. He was wrong. I wasn't just some girl he could rewire in a flannel delusion. I was a Lara Whitmore. I used to believe in naivety, but now I believe in consequences.